Hi, everyone. Good morning. So good to be here today, and it's great to hear that we have a packed house. That's a really good sign. We know that getting the word out about Local Law 97 is huge, and having your presence here today is really, really meaningful. So good morning, everyone, and I just wanted to thank you all for coming here today, and also to our host, John Jay, for this beautiful venue and making the space available to us. You are all part of creating a cleaner, greener, and safer New York City, and this work cannot get done without you. The Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, or MOCEJ, is really grateful to partner with you, and we know that this work can't be done alone. And so thank you also to everyone at the New York City Accelerator and our staff here, Nikki, Joseph, Joe Chavez, Jeanette, Harleen, Amy, who have all been supporting MOCEJ and putting together the incredible program of events you have today. So MOCEJ is the first climate office in New York City to have environmental justice within its title. And this is a new office, one that was just formed within this administration. And what it does is it merges all of the resilience and sustainability environmental operations into one umbrella mayor's office that centers environmental justice, equity, and wellness within our programs, with a focus on the most vulnerable New Yorkers in making sure that this clean energy transition that we're doing doesn't leave people behind. New York City and New York State has one of the most ambitious climate agendas in the United States and frankly, the world. We're striving for 100% renewable energy by 2040. 100% decarbonization, 100% carbon neutral economy by 2050. And I want to highlight too that these are not just New York City and New York State goals. There's lots of leadership even coming out of the Biden administration for carbon neutrality by 2050 as well, which IRA and Bill have all been geared towards getting our carbon reductions and greenhouse gas reductions to that point. But I want to talk to you about Local Law 97, which was passed in 2019 as part of our Climate Mobilization Act, as you know, and really is what brings us here today for this clean energy transition. It's a climate law, Local Law 97, but it's also a health law. When we electrify and retrofit our buildings for efficiency, we don't just reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we make our air cleaner. Fossil fuels like non-renewable resources like coal and natural gas and oil emit very high levels of pollutants when they're burned, and these greenhouse gases warm our planet. These pollutants are damaging to our ecosystems, as you've seen with hurricanes Milton and Helene that just happened in the past couple of weeks, and they increase our risks of extreme weather and temperature spikes and rainier and hotter New York. What we did most recently was release the Environmental Justice Report for New York City, really the first of its kind landmark study that defined disadvantaged communities for the first time in New York City and environmental burdens and benefits across New York. What it showed was that this attention to public health and wellness is critical, especially for these disadvantaged communities who have more stationary sources of pollution by living next to peaker power plants and waste processing facilities. There's more observed health disparities like increase in emergency room visits, especially for children. And there's greater exposure to pollutants, particularly from medium and heavy duty vehicles. Along with the EJ NYC report, we also created a free, publicly accessible environmental justice NYC mapping tool where anyone can go online and see over 100 different data layers mapped over the political boundaries of their community, how environmental burdens and benefits actually articulate themselves, and the data that's publicly accessible for them to know and have this information. There's also a tutorial on YouTube if you're so curious to check it out or spread the tool even further. I mentioned these health disparities because a lot of this pollution that is attributable to these health disparities is coming from our buildings. And it's because of this air pollution that Local Law 97 is so important, amongst other reasons. These fuel combustion within buildings emit the PM 2.5, which we know is small enough to enter your bloodstream through your lungs, because 2.5 is the microns in diameter in which those particles exist. A recent study from Columbia University looked at the impacts of Local Law 97 and found that 800 to 900 premature deaths in 2017 could be relatable to stationary fuel combustion from buildings. And we also know that Local Law 97 can prevent hundreds of deaths a year, as well as prevent exposure to these pollutants which cause asthma, which is 1 out of 25 deaths in New York City. So these are huge public health implications, and a decarbonization of our building stock is going to have profound wellness implications for New Yorkers. And so it's also a jobs law. Local Law 97 is predicted to create up to 141,000 jobs in the New York City metro area. And then a few months ago, the New York City Economic Development Corporation, in partnership with us, released the Green Economy Action Plan, which showed that we'll be expecting 400,000 green-collar jobs within the next 15 years. And about a third of those jobs are attributable to Local Law 97 implementation and the construction and real estate industry. And so while we decarbonize our buildings, we're also really focused on creating job pathways and access to those jobs to those impacted most by the impacts of climate change. And a lot of times people think of 97 as a private sector law, but New York City government operations are also subjected to the law. And in fact, we have more stringent targets than the private sector. Overall, over the past decade, municipal buildings have seen an 8% reduction in energy consumption, and since 2006, city government operations have reduced greenhouse gas emissions from its buildings, from its fleet, from its wastewater treatment and solid waste by over 25%. That work has led to greenhouse gas emission reductions that equal removing about 80,000 cars off the road from New York City. And as the city continues to reduce building emissions in public and private sector, we're also looking for emission reductions from the construction industry itself. One of our objectives within Plan YC is to clean the construction industry. We'll think about full life cycle analysis and carbon neutrality within the context of our buildings and our construction equipment. And since, so the group of C40 cities, along with MOCEJ, just announced during Climate Week a new partnership to reduce construction emissions from our construction industry. And one of the things that C40 and us found was that almost a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions and almost a third of global resource consumption comes from the construction industry. Fossil fuel burning construction equipment emits pollutants that harms people's respiratory health on construction sites, but also in the neighborhoods next to these construction sites. And if you've ever lived next to a construction site in New York City, you know about the odors, the sound, the noise, the smell, and thinking about the electrification of that will bring benefits to our neighbors, but the people who work in and out daily on those sites. In addition to New York, the coalition formed with 6 other cities in North America, and in partnership with the Building Trades Employer Association, the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, and the Carbon Leadership Forum. There's rolling admission to the coalition into the fall and winter, so please come speak to us, Joe Chavez or Nikki, if you're interested in joining the coalition on the industry side. We're really interested in seeing your support. And now I want to get into a couple of the nuts and bolts of Local Law 97. One of the things we did recently was release the report, if you haven't seen it, called Getting 97 Done. This was just released this past year and outlines the Adams administration's plan to mobilize buildings and bring extensive outreach to property owners, financial resources, incentives, to make sure we can give you all the tools and the support you need to be in compliance with this law, which is challenging for many. And we've done that by providing free wraparound services with the New York City Accelerator. And we've also more recently developed PACE financing and seen successes with other incentives and really getting into the hands of the building owners who are trying to do this work. We have identified and targeted financing options at the city, state, and federal level, and also from utilities. And we've implemented key enforcement mechanisms via 3 Department of Buildings rules packages, which Deputy Commissioner Laura Popa will speak about in a moment. Especially important is we're supporting compliance for our buildings in disadvantaged communities and rent-regulated apartments and low-income co-ops across New York City. The Adams administration is also calling upon the City Council to enact J51 Housing Quality Tax Incentive Program. This is going to be an incredibly important tool to the low-income, affordable co-ops and condos who are looking for more tools and resources to be in compliance with Local Law 97. And so it's really critically important that the City Council move forward and enact J51. This approach would devote significant resources to help low and moderate income multifamily buildings, especially outside of Manhattan, and allow these incentives to contribute towards compliance with Local Law 97. To expand options for owners and help buildings achieve compliance, the city also announced during Climate Week a new fund, the Greenhouse Fund. The Local Law 97 covered buildings can purchase offset certificates for up to 10% of their emissions and direct them towards decarbonizing and electrifying affordable housing developments that otherwise wouldn't have the resources to pay for them. This will enable even more buildings to decarbonize, give options to property owners to be in compliance with Local Law 97, grow jobs and innovation, improve air quality and environmental justice neighborhoods, and moves the city and state closer to achieving our ambitious goals. And it's a great example of the innovation that government is doing right now, particularly between our Housing Preservation Development Department, HPD, and DOB, and the leadership from the agencies, and really trying to figure out innovative ways to make this work. And another way we're doing that is expanding the New York City Accelerator. This program has actually been around for more than 10 years and even been around before the New York City, before we had Local Law 97, we had the New York City Accelerator. And its original intention was to help us phase out of dirty heating oil boilers. Now that Local Law 97 is in place, we're really excited to be revamping the New York City Accelerator for bringing new digital dashboards, tools, and resources that will make the customer experience and the tracking experience much more pleasant and easier to use. And the New York City Accelerator itself has already assisted 22,000 buildings and helped start 25,000 retrofit projects, reducing carbon emissions by almost 20,000 tons. And help the building owners avoid more than $5 million in avoided penalties. So go to the Accelerator, and you'll hear that over and over again as we talk about the programming for today, because that's really critically important. So we're really proud of the New York City Accelerator and the progress we've made under 3 separate mayoral administrations at this point. And because climate change is itself bringing new challenges, we're making sure that the New York City Accelerator program itself further evolves. So this fall, we'll be expanding the New York City Accelerator and including things like resilience and referrals for that program, in addition to the sustainability topics that are traditionally covered by the Accelerator. So this enhanced Accelerator will offer a streamlined digital platform with this additional focus on resilience being added into it, and is the equivalent of taking another 250,000 cars off the street if it's able to meet its targets by 2030. This enhanced program will also require that 60% of all the small buildings that it engages with are from disadvantaged communities. And so we're really targeting those who are least resourced to come into the Accelerator and find pathways for compliance and resources to update and modernize your buildings. So we encourage all kinds of consultants and respondents to respond to that RFP when we put it out. But it's really exciting to have the support of the Accelerator here and a great programming that's been going on to bring our buildings into compliance. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Laura Popa, the Deputy Commissioner of Sustainability at New York City Department of Buildings. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Elijah. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the New York City Department of Buildings to speak with such an engaged group of professionals. You are all leading the charge to help our city meet the urgent challenges posed by climate change. I want to extend my appreciation to all of you for joining us. It's a packed house. Your work is critical to achieving the ambitious targets set by Local Law 97 and to ensuring a sustainable future for New York City. A special shout out to my staff at the Department of Buildings, the ultimate A-team. Holly, Tarek, Emily, Julia, Ellen, Sarah, Chris, Gaspar, and Lindsay, and I apologize if I missed anyone. They've been manning the tables here. And we'll be here all day. So this administration has been unwavering in our commitment to implement Local Law 97 in a way that supports building owners on their paths toward compliance, while at the same time maximizing emissions reduction citywide. When 97 was first drafted, limits were set so that the worst 20% of emitters would have to implement retrofits in order to avoid penalties during the first compliance period. As of now, more than half of those buildings that were facing penalties have come into compliance, representing a significant shift towards sustainability and emissions reduction. This is incredible progress and highlights both the impact of our collective efforts and the commitment of building owners to meet our climate goals. Thousands of buildings taking tangible steps to reduce their carbon emissions reflects the work of all of us here in this room: DOB, MOCEJ, HPD, New York City Accelerator, building owners, service providers, utilities, and our government partners. We should be proud of the progress already made and let it serve as a reminder that progress to reverse the damaging impacts of climate change is possible. Implementing Local Law 97 is a large and complex undertaking. When it was originally drafted, the City Council had the foresight to understand that this law could not be one size fits all. Building occupancy types, good faith efforts, financial health, and more all had to be taken into consideration to create a program that would give owners the flexibility and incentives needed to get started on retrofit projects. As you all know, we are in the first year of compliance, and emissions reports are due on May 1st, 2025. Almost 40,000 buildings must reduce emissions through 2050, and approximately 10,000 more affordable housing buildings and houses of worship must complete prescriptive energy conservation measures this year. When 97 was first enacted, the council gave us a long to-do list in order to fully implement this law and get buildings ready for the first compliance year. Many policies detailing pathways to compliance were left to DOB rulemaking. This includes developing coefficients for fuel sources so buildings can calculate their emissions, and establishing what the emissions limits are for different building types. It includes developing factors that the city will consider for penalty mitigation, such as determining what constitutes good faith efforts and creating long-term decarbonization plans. And it includes clarifying what renewable energy credits and offsets are and how they can be a complementary tool for building owners, part of a comprehensive plan to get into compliance. Our most recent proposed rule package, released last month during Climate Week, creates an affordable housing reinvestment fund, which will ensure offsets are paying for emissions reductions in low-income buildings that need help the most right here in New York City. We're all very excited about this program, and the proposed rule package signifies the last rulemaking needed before compliance reports are due next spring. Holly Savoya from DOB will cover the rules in greater detail during the Local Law 97 General Compliance session. The Sustainability Bureau here at DOB understands that regulations won't do any good if people can't understand them. And so to further support the rules and implementation, DOB created educational guidance documents for building owners and industry professionals, which address common questions and concerns and continue to evolve based on feedback from stakeholders. The requirements are technically dense, and these guidance documents are helping to demystify the process for New Yorkers. For the DOB Sustainability Bureau, providing informational support for building owners and service providers is seen as critical to achieving our goals. We've done webinars and in-person events, hundreds, sent tens of thousands of letters and emails, and even made phone calls to help stakeholders understand their obligations under Local Law 97. Our proactive outreach approach always ends the same way, connecting building owners and service providers with New York City Accelerator. That's because we do none of this alone. Collaboration is key to our success in implementing Local Law 97. We have strong government partners with MOCEJ, HPD, NYCERDA, and of course, New York City Accelerator. Recently, DOB secured a major federal grant aimed at carbon emissions reduction targets for large buildings in disadvantaged communities, $20 million. This grant, provided by the U.S. Department of Energy, was obtained through an application submitted in partnership with our friends at NYU Marin and Urban Green Council. Thanks to NYU and Urban Green, we will have access to federal funds so we can amplify our existing outreach efforts and promote workforce training in the green technology sector. Importantly, we plan on using this grant money to help create a comprehensive emissions reduction playbook, which can be replicated by other jurisdictions across the country and further afield. This is critical because 97 really is just a first step for all of us. If we want to see significant reductions in global carbon emissions and reverse the trend of global climate change, we need our law to be a model adopted by other major cities. We need success. By moving the ball forward on 97 here and at home together, we are making it that much easier for other jurisdictions to follow in our footsteps. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Simon Mugo, Program Director of New York City Accelerator. Simon will share insights into the incredible work that NYC Accelerator has done over the years, assisting buildings in navigating the path to compliance and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah, and thank you, Laura. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us in person and virtually today. Before we dive into the presentation, I'd like to highlight a comprehensive vendor directory for today's Local Law 97 Compliance event. So using the QR code on the screen, you can get access to the directory, which includes company descriptions, vendor contact information, table numbers, today's event agenda, and New York City Accelerator contract details. I'm sure a few of you or a number of you have already received a copy of it, a physical copy, but it is also available digitally if you choose to do so. A special thank you to our community partners for making this possible. This directory, as I mentioned, is available both physically and digital, in physical and digital formats, and we hope that it helps you efficiently navigate the Expo and to connect with service providers most relevant to your building's needs. I'd like to say thank you to our community partners for supporting today's event. These partners include DOB, Con Edison, National Grid, NYCERDA, New York City Sustainability Help Center, and HPD. Please visit their exhibit booths in the lobby atrium to access resources and assistance in relation to Local Law 97 compliance. Also, a big thank you to all our exhibitors today. There are too many to list, but your participation is key to helping New York City achieve its sustainability goals. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my colleague Justin Belover for leading the event planning efforts and making today possible. Thank you, and thank you to the entire team for making today possible. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. So as we get started, I'd like to ask all of you to use your phones or mobile devices to scan the QR code on the screen. This will give you access to a 3-question live poll for our event today. We did have this screen up earlier before the event kicked off, so maybe a number of you have already accessed the poll. But if you have not, this is your opportunity now to scan the QR code to get access to the survey. So over the next few slides, I'll walk us through exactly what those questions are. And throughout the event, please take your time to go through the survey, submit your responses as you would. So for the first question, we asked, what is your planned Local Law 97 compliance approach for 2024? Are you already below your emissions limits? Have you began the work but do not expect to be completed in time and are planning to apply for penalty mitigation? or are you planning to pay a penalty due to non-compliance? The next question is, what is your planned Local Law 97 approach for 2030? Are you projected to be below your emissions limits, or are you in the process of completing projects that would get you below your limits? Are you still working to identify which projects to pursue, or in order to meet your 2030 limits, or do you expect that you'll pay fines due to non-compliance? Now, for the last question, we're curious about the types of ECMs or energy conservation measures you've already implemented or are in the process of implementing in order to achieve Local Law 97 compliance. This list is too extensive to list, but please select as many of these measures that are applicable to your building or buildings if you manage a portfolio of buildings. So, as I mentioned, feel free to work through the survey. We really appreciate your inputs. This gives us a better sense of where the market is in terms of their compliance journey. In the interest of time, I'll continue to go through the presentation, and we can review the poll results at the end. Now, we're going to take the next few minutes to highlight the progress we've made as a program, as a New York City Accelerator program. Then we'll highlight some exciting program updates before handing it over to Holly Savoya from DOB, who will be leading the Local Law 97 General Compliance session. So, looking back on the last 4 years, I'd like to share some key highlights or accomplishments from the New York City Accelerator program. So, to date, the program has engaged over 24,000 buildings across 13,000 properties or BBLs across the 5 boroughs of New York City. 86% of these buildings are required to comply with Local Law 97, and over 16,000 of these buildings are affordable housing. In terms of service providers, we're excited to share that this year we added 60 new service providers, which gives us a total of 260 providers in our service provider program. In terms of carbon emission reduction, we facilitated and assisted with projects that have resulted in greenhouse gas emissions reductions of 19,438 tons of CO2 equivalent. In terms of energy savings, we've saved over 310 million kBTU, which results in a dollar savings of about $7 million. In terms of solar, we've conducted well over 570 feasibility studies, and this is in support of renewable energy adoption across New York City. In terms of training initiatives, we've provided training to over 1,800 building owners, property managers, service providers, and other stakeholders using our Energy Efficiency Learning Center. In terms of marketing and outreach, we've implemented a robust marketing strategy that's included 73 e-blasts, 527 social media posts, and these have all generated about 12,800 inquiries into the program. We also expanded marketing efforts to include foreign languages, and this has resulted in a 25% increase in engagement with non-English speaking communities, showcasing the effectiveness of targeted multilingual outreach strategies. So to date, the Accelerator has initiated over 17,000 projects across New York City. The most common project categories were compliance assistance. So this is assistance in identifying what measures or what resources a building would have to navigate in order to achieve Local Law 97 compliance, as well as any other building law that the building would be subject to in New York City. Lighting at 10%, building envelope at 10% as well, and distributed generation, which is essentially solar and battery storage. And lastly, decarbonization studies, which develop an engineering study to develop a roadmap to decarbonize your building, and that is at 8%. So breaking down the project mix even further to distinguish between planning and engineering studies compared to installed energy conservation measures or ECMs, the above chart gives a full picture of our work. So in the analysis, it's clear that, one, a large number of buildings are working with us and their service providers to develop a concrete plan to reduce their emissions and meet local law compliance. The second is that a number of buildings are also seeking to reduce their energy use by, one, installing more energy efficient lighting, two, improving their building envelope, which includes adding roof, wall insulation, upgrading their windows, as well as air sealing. The third is distributed generation, which is a very popular measure in the program because the cost of going solar in New York City has dropped significantly over the past couple of years, and there are a number of federal and state incentives to reduce the cost of implementing these measures. So just to give you a better sense of where the projects are located, this heat map gives you, shows you where our active projects are located. So the dark blue areas indicate areas with high number of projects, and the lighter blue indicates neighborhoods with fewer project activity. The zip code with the largest number of initiated projects this year so far is 10027, which is a zip code in Manhattan with 772 projects. If you're curious, that is West Harlem, the Morningside area. So as a reminder for those who may not be as familiar with the Accelerator, the program offers resources that can help you achieve Local Law 97 compliance in the following ways. First, we help to clarify the various Local Law 97 requirements and different pathways specific to your building. The second is we identify your building's current greenhouse gas emissions and compare those to your building's emissions limits. Third, we help determine a pathway which is most appropriate for your building. Fourth, we assist in pulling together various incentives, whether it's the utilities, NYSERDA, as well as federal incentives, as well as financing to ensure that you have all the resources to reduce the upfront cost of making these upgrades. Fifth is assisting in identifying service providers to complete the necessary work. As I mentioned, we have 260 service providers in our network, a number of which are present today at this event. And lastly, we tend to provide general project management support throughout the process. So once you engage with our program, your account manager who's specifically assigned to your building will work with you from start to finish. So as a program, as I mentioned earlier, we maintain a qualified local service provider network. This can be accessed through our website. Here you can find the right vendors to install your energy projects. Our service provider specialist, Denise Milianta, who's here today, oversees the ongoing recruitment into the service provider program. We continue to increase MWB engagement to the program as we strive to ensure that at least 30% of our engaged service providers have MWBE status. In terms of training, the program offers a number of free training offerings through our Learning Center. Through this portal, as I mentioned earlier, we've already trained over 1,800 building owners and other stakeholders. And so if you're interested, I'd recommend that you access the training through our website. We also have a QR code at the back of the room that you can access it directly. So in closing, some key highlights and lessons learned from the past year include: one, increased user engagement. So active users in the New York City Accelerator Learning Center grew significantly, actually surpassing all our goals for the year. In terms of effective promotion, partner training saw an increased enrollment. So we don't only have New York City Accelerator developed trainings in our portal, we also host trainings from other industry partners that we work with, and we've seen a heightened interest, particularly with energy laws such as Local Law 97. Third is the focus on Local Law 97. So we've noticed a growing demand for Local Law 97 related training, thus highlighting the need for more focused outreach and training efforts in this area. Hence, today's event is a good example of laser focusing on Local Law 97, as the market has indicated that that's something they're very interested in. And lastly, partnerships for outreach. So we've collaborated with utilities and other industry partners, and this has really helped diversify the audience of users within our Learning Center. And now I'll pass the microphone over to my colleague Jessica Horn, who will delve into our marketing and outreach campaigns, shedding light on our strategy to connect with our community and drive engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you all for being with us here today. As Simon mentioned, I will cover several campaigns we've run since we last met at the last symposium in February. First up is the Local Law 97 campaign. Throughout the program, we've always had a constant drumbeat in the market of education, communication, and promotion of Local Law 97 through our various channels, including earned media, owned media, which is eBlast's website, paid media, and social media. The Local Law 97 campaign goals for 2024 were twofold. One, to impart a sense of urgency to building stakeholders that this year is the first compliance year and they must act now. And then secondly, is to inform building stakeholders that the NYC Accelerator is here to help provide compliance assistance. This campaign included several new and unique components. We ran a digital paid media campaign from April through August that drove over 200,000 impressions and 10,000 website visits. We sent out a postcard and email through our partnership with HPD to over 5,700 buildings on the covered buildings list. Conducted a local L97 compliance plan survey and email campaign. Launched the local L97 video and written case studies, and developed new compliance support materials, including a steps to compliance one-pager and how to set up a compliance advisory committee, both that's going to be released in the coming weeks. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we're launching a local L97 case study video series. The first one is of the Madison, a co-op in Queens, and I'd love to premiere it here with you.
Local 197 compliance is important for us. As property owners, we want to be in compliance. We want to save money and avoid the fines. NYC Accelerator is a great service that enables property owners to start to think about their capital planning upgrades. They're a great resource and they're free. NYC Accelerator has helped us with Local 197 by putting us in touch with engineering firms that we can contact for next steps. We have reduced our carbon emissions and our fuel costs, and that has saved us real money. We reduced our gas bill by 45%. But also, too, a lot of these upgrades are eligible for tax incentives, and so there's a financial benefit as well. We are literally saving money by running our boiler less, and we've made upgrades in that area which have been very helpful as far as reducing costs, and shareholders recognize that. So my advice for other buildings or property owners would be to call NYC Accelerator. Regardless of where you are in your compliance journey, they can help you.
Hope you enjoyed that video, and thank you to Mike Perella, if you're here, and the whole crew from the Madison for participating in this case study. In addition to the local N97 video case studies, we've also been developing written stories of building compliance you can find on our website. We hope that you can check them out, and if your building has a story to tell, please get in touch with me. I'll be here all day. We'd love to share it. NYC Accelerator also helps new buildings, and we promoted this offering throughout the year through our marketing channels. This campaign is directed towards architects, designers, engineers, letting them know that we can help them optimize energy performance in the planning stages of new construction projects. We developed the electrification guide, which is live on our website. We also held several webinars and offered trainings on Local Law 154, future-proofing and financing with PACE for new construction. Through our new buildings training program, I'd like to share an exclusive opportunity for architects, engineers, and designers. We're offering a limited time all-access pass to professional development trainings. This package provides trainings on high-performance building practices. Participants can earn continuing education credits, listed here up on this slide. For more details and to take advantage of this opportunity, please scan this QR code. We have limited spaces, so I encourage you to apply early. I'll give folks a moment to scan. I'll also note that at our promotional table in the exhibit space, there's a QR code to scan and find out more information there as well. NYC Accelerator also helps small buildings, 5,000 to 25,000 square feet, by working with them to understand their utility bills, unlocking financing incentives, navigating local laws, and accessing free trainings as well. To ensure small buildings are aware of our services, we also have promoting this offering through our marketing channels, including paid media, campaign that drove over 160,000 impressions and 8,000 site visits. We sent out about 4,000 postcards to small buildings, which highlighted our services that are offered to small buildings. We also developed a partner toolkit for distribution to community-based partner organizations to help extend the reach of the program. Next campaign we ran was number 4 oil phase-out campaign earlier this year to align with the June 30th deadline of the city no longer issuing permits for number 4 oil usage. This campaign's goals were to alert the buildings that still use number 4 oil of this deadline, inform all buildings that the city will prohibit number 4 oil use in privately owned buildings starting in July of 2027, and thirdly, to educate everyone that New York is phasing out of number 4 oil to improve air quality, protect public health, especially in environmental justice communities. Lastly, our most recent campaign that just launched earlier this month is the Beneficial Electrification Credit Campaign. With this campaign, we want to increase awareness of the beneficial electrification credit, and electrification as it relates to local law deadlines and financial incentives, and increase the understanding of electrification measures like space heating and heat pump water heaters. We developed a handout in coordination with Con Edison and National Grid. That's also on our promotional table in the exhibit hall. And we're also planning a webinar with those utility partners, NYSERDA and DOB on October 30th. I'll share more details on that event at the end of my presentation. Moving on to share some website highlights. We launched the award-winning Building Energy Snapshot tool on our website in September of 2023, and it's available to get specific information about your building's energy use and local N97 compliance status. And it went live, since it went live, we've had over 113,000 uses. And I say award-winning because this tool and the webpage won a Gold Hermes Creative Award this past spring. Events, as you know, because you're all here, is an important part of the NYC Accelerator outreach strategy. 3 key events over the past several months that I'd like to highlight include, in March, we held a local N97 Compliance Navigating the Prescriptive Pathway webinar, which aimed at educating service providers about the PECMs, the 13 PECMs. In May, we held the local N97 Compliance Prescriptive Pathways Vendor Expo, which was our first ever expo focused on buildings who need to comply with the prescriptive pathway. We had 25 exhibitors and almost 100 attendees. Based on the success and interest in that event, we decided to plan this expo, which has about 3 times the number, or is about 3 times as large. In August, we held Decarbonizing NYC, property manager firms getting Local 97 done. We had over 1,100 RSVPs and over 500 attendees, our largest attended webinar yet. Before I wrap up, I'd like to highlight 2 additional unique event series, Local Law 97 Climate Action Meetings and Local Law 97 Interdistrict Events. In coordination with DOB, we're holding Local Law 97 Climate Action Meetings, which offers building stakeholders one-on-one meetings with their account managers. We've held over 100 of these in person and virtual. If you're interested in signing up for one, please use the QR code that you see on the screen. Lastly, Local Law 97 in your district. The city introduced this as part of the Getting Local Law 97 Done that launched in September of 2023. It provides an opportunity for each district's council member to collaborate with NYC Accelerator to help local buildings comply and for constituents to get their questions answered. Since the series began, we've held 11 events and over 180, reaching over 180 constituents. And for the first time, we have a Local 97 in your district hosted by three council members, three Brooklyn council members later on this month, which I will highlight on this slide. So before I conclude, I'd like to invite you to continue your engagement with us by participating in some of our upcoming events. On the Monday, October 28th, we're hosting Local 97 in your district with the three council members in Brooklyn. On Wednesday, October 30th, that is our building electrification credit campaign event. And then some partner events on November 7th. The Building Energy Exchange is hosting the future of multifamily positioning condos and co-ops for success. And National Grid is hosting a contractor open house on November 14th. So once again, a QR code. I've now opened 1 million tabs in your browser, but please feel free to scan that and RSVP for these events. We look forward to seeing you there. So I want to thank you all again for being here today, and please connect with us or contact us if you haven't already. Yet another QR code. And you can connect directly with an account manager who can provide you with personalized assistance for your building.